For another year or so. So sorry. If you're curious what the giant panda flirting looks like, it can include raising their tails and, as you can see, wiggling their backsides. Maybe some of us have witnessed this before in other applications. That will do it for us on this Friday. Hope you have a great weekend. See you back here on Monday. All Day is next.
Welcome to All Day Live here in Fox 9. Friday afternoon, a chilly one. We'll get an update on the forecast from Jared here in a little bit. A lot of other stuff that we're following today on this Friday here. A hearing at the Capitol in St. Paul right now. A number of topics there. There's a couple that we're interested in that are still yet to come. A couple that were talked about earlier that we'll bring you portions of. So we're watching that. We're going to be talking to Maud Hicks in Sacramento here in a few minutes as well, ahead of the Gopher women's basketball team taking on UCLA in the Sweet 16 tonight if they win the Elite 8 game on Sunday. So that's pretty exciting stuff too. But we want to begin by talking about something very important to a lot of people, especially in the airports, for those who fly and for those who have not been getting paid working TSA. The partial government shutdown now one step closer to being over. When the U.S. Senate reached a deal early this morning, it was about 1:20 a.m. Central Time, to fund most of Homeland Security, but not immigration enforcement. That would be saved for later debate. Now, ICE is currently using funds from the so-called One Big Beautiful Bill to continue operating. So they do have money, but this would be about other continued funding. Now, the deal emerged as TSA agents were set to miss their third paycheck today. President Trump said he would sign an emergency order. He did this late yesterday, saying he would sign an emergency order to immediately pay TSA agents. It was unclear where that money would come from, but that really spurred the Senate to really take this to heart last night, working into the night, especially with a 2-week break coming here. They're trying to get this work done, but the work is not completely done. The deal is now in the hands of the U.S. House, which is currently in recess after convening in this morning to talk about other bills. It is expected to be considered yet today and maybe passed yet today, but maybe not, because there is some staunch opposition in the House from conservatives in the House Freedom Caucus, who insist they don't want to pass anything that does not include that immigration funding. They also want to include some voting restrictions that President Trump has pushed for. He's insisted there be no deal on DHS funding without passing voting reforms, including the requirements of voter ID and restrictions on mail-in ballots. So we're watching this. If they take this up on the House floor into debate, we'll try to jump into that and bring you some of that as it happens. But again, no indication right now when that could occur, as they are still meeting behind closed doors. Again, trying to hash something out here behind closed doors that they can potentially pass on the floor. We got the latest out of the Middle East too that we want to update you on. Israel threatening to escalate and expand attacks on Iran. And it comes as President Trump has talked about bringing an end to the war. But Iran has shown no signs of backing down, as President Trump is under pressure and has been now to open the Strait of Hormuz, where 1/5 of the world's oil is usually shipped. That has been basically brought to a standstill and affected oil markets, as we've seen at the pump, globally, because it is a global market here. So one effect somewhere is going to have effects everywhere. The U.S. has offered a 15-point proposal for a ceasefire that does include relinquishing control of the strait, but at the same time, the U.S. has ordered thousands of more troops into the region. The president has said if Iran doesn't reopen the strait by April 6th, he will order the destruction of Iran's energy plants. All right, here at home, no Kings rallies. Well, here at home and across the country, no Kings rallies will be taking place on Saturday. The big rally here in St. Paul tomorrow. Organizers expect that St. Paul rally to be one of the biggest in the country, expected to draw tens of thousands of people, with some big names as part of the bill at the Capitol here. Bruce Springsteen set to perform his song Streets of Minneapolis. U.S. Senator Bernie Sanders, Lieutenant Governor Peggy Flanagan, Attorney General Keith Ellison, Jane Fonda, Joan Baez, Maggie Rogers, all scheduled to be there. That event kicks off at noon with marches from 3 different St. Paul locations: Harriet Island, St. Paul College, and Western Sculpture Park. Then we'll meet at the Capitol at 2 o'clock. With so many people planning to head out there, there will be a number of road closures happening in and around St. Paul to accommodate those crowds. So Lauren Andrego has a look at more on what you can expect on the roads.
Good afternoon. St. Paul officials say they're expecting thousands of people in and around downtown St. Paul for the No Kings rally happening Saturday afternoon. And for that reason, St. Paul police are shutting down a couple of roads to accommodate for the marching traffic and all of the vehicle traffic that'll be right here around Spaghetti Junction. So here is a map that St. Paul police put out today, talking about the roads that are going to be shut down in and around St. Paul. This is Spaghetti Junction, 94, 35E. These red roads will be shut down all morning and all day around the Capitol. We're talking about Martin Luther King Jr. Boulevard. We're talking about Rice Street and 12th Street all the way to University. These blue roads in and around 94 and 35E, they will be closing down at 11:45 through 1:30 p.m. to accommodate the marching traffic. So we're talking about 35E and the 11th Street exit, which will be closed into downtown St. Paul. We're talking about Wabasha Street through downtown St. Paul, Concordia, Fuller Avenue, Rondo Avenue, and a couple of other streets around the St. Paul College side of downtown St. Paul. Here is a look at my map to show you the event spots around downtown St. Paul. The state capitol is where everybody's going to rally around the noon hour and into the afternoon. They're going to be meeting at the Sculpture Park at St. Paul College west of downtown St. Paul, and then south of downtown across the river over at Harriet Island. If you're driving to any of these events, those side streets should be fine. Watch out for a couple of delays. There is parking around each of these spots. If you'd like to bypass this traffic altogether, I would say avoid 94, avoid 35E, and avoid University Avenue through the morning and afternoon until about Saturday evening when things calm down. To bypass St. Paul, you can take 694 or 494. I would recommend taking 694 north and then using 36 through Roseville to get to 35W, where then you can continue on to 94.
All right, thanks, Lauren. Of course, we'll have extended live coverage tomorrow of that event as well on Fox 9, but also streaming on the Fox local app and on our website as well. Other news today, we're learning about the arrest of a state representative, Elliot Engen, on suspicion of drunk driving. Now, this comes from White Bear Lake police, who say Engen was pulled over for speeding, for expired tabs, and for a broken headlight, and then say a breath test showed he blew a .13, which is, of course, well over the legal limit to drive. He was booked in the Ramsey County Jail on 4th-degree DWI. He's since been released. Engen is a Republican who represents Lino Lake, Centerville, North Oaks, White Bear Township. He's 27. He's the youngest member in the legislature and also running for state auditor. Now, we got a statement from House Speaker Lisa Demuth. She says she's extremely disappointed to learn about this arrest and will consider further consequences as the legal process unfolds. Also today, Minneapolis police investigating a shooting overnight that left one man dead and others injured, 2 more injured actually. This happening near Chicago Avenue and Franklin Avenue about 12:30 this morning. Police arriving to find 3 men with gunshot wounds. One of those men died at the scene. Police say 2 were on the sidewalk when at least 1 person opened fire before taking off in a vehicle. At this point, no arrests have been made. A public memorial, meantime, for Jessie Pierce and her 3 children, taking place Sunday in White Bear Lake. A visitation will happen from 1 to 5 o'clock Sunday at Mueller Memorial in White Bear Lake. Jessie and her 3 children, Hudson, Caden, Avery, all killed in a house fire last weekend. Jessie's husband releasing a statement yesterday thanking everybody for their support including the first responders, the White Bear Lake community, and the Minnesota Wild and the NHL, because Jessie worked as a reporter for the Wild for NHL.com. She had her own hockey podcast, too. Now, the exact cause of the fire is still being determined, but authorities did say that it was clear it was not started intentionally. All right, well, let's head out west now. Gopher women's basketball in the Sweet 16, taking on a conference foe in the top-seeded UCLA tonight. The winner advancing to the regional final, one step closer to the Final Four. And we find Fox 9's Ahmad Hicks live in Sacramento, where the game is tonight. Ahmad joining us from what I'm sure is just one wing of that VIP suite that we've put you in out there. Looks good.
Super luxury. You know, we took the private jet out here, landed last night. We're just about, a 2-minute walk from the arena, so Fox 9 did it perfect, as they always do.
Nothing but the best for you, Ahmad.
Yeah.
The first matchup with UCLA didn't go so well. I think it was January 14th at Williams. They lost by 18, and UCLA's only lost, one in the regular season. So you look at that way, it doesn't seem like the odds stack up. But on the other hand, that doesn't really matter now, right? This is one game, anything can happen.
It's March. Anything can happen in the month of March, especially when you talk about the NCAA tournament. Going back to that January matchup versus UCLA, where they did lose by 18 points. The Gophers were without Tori McKinney. And for those who watch Gopher women's basketball, you will know she's the catalyst for this team, both offensively and defensively. She averages 15 points a game, and she's also able to slow down the other team's best point guard or shooting guard. And in that game, Kiki Rice went off versus Minnesota. She shot 8 of 9 and I think had 25 points that day. So you just hear me out here. The Gophers lost by 18. The other team's best guard had 25 points, shot 88% from the field, and Tori McKinney didn't play, who averages 15. You put her back in the lineup, some things may be able to change. Now, I'm not guaranteeing a victory, but I don't think things will be lopsided like a lot of bettors and a lot of people are thinking about this game. The Gophers were outscored by 8 in the first quarter by the Bruins in their first matchup, and then the rest of the game were only outscored by 8 points combined through the rest of the 3 quarters. So I think if they're able to withstand a run, they have a chance today, Rob.
Well, and that's really what we look at when we get into March Madness, are the bracket busters, the upsets. They happen all the time. They happen in both, the men and the women, and we've seen surprises. And so those surprises always seem to happen, and a lot of it is just the way teams are playing or the way that the pressure of this tournament makes them play. You could see potentially a pretty close game.
Yeah, I mean, I see a close game, but I'm also a little biased. I cover the Gophers. I do a coach's show with them weekly, so I understand the ladies. Head coach Don Plitzaway, big fan of all of them. But on the flip side, the UCLA Bruins have 6 players that could get drafted in the WNBA draft this upcoming year, in the first round at that. So they have a ton of talent. So if the Gophers want to beat them, UCLA will have to not play their best basketball, and the Gophers will absolutely have to play their best basketball. They're going to have to shoot 65% from the field if they want to win tonight.
Okay, so what is on tap for you here the rest of the day leading up to game time? Do you get any opportunities to talk to the coach or the team ahead of time, or do they try to keep them off limits here?
Yeah. No. This is not the NBA or the WNBA where you get coaches and some select players moments before the game. They have them closed off. They had a walkthrough this morning where that's close to the public and things like that, go over their plays. And the next time I'll see these ladies and head coach Don Plitzaway is when they're on the court getting ready to take on the UCLA Bruins here at 4:30 Pacific time and 6:30 Central time for you guys.
Yeah, it reminds me of, it was back in, this is aging myself, Ahmad, so pardon me, but back in 2004, they sent me as part of the coverage of the Final Four down in New Orleans. When the women Gophers were in that. I remember before the game, standing in the tunnels basically when the team was walking out, and trying to maybe even get any reaction from them. And no, they were just focused. I mean, we were all invisible. They were just focused. And that is the kind of stuff that you get to see behind the curtain, I guess, so to speak, that really tells you a lot about a team and about the event.
Yeah, see, I'm gonna date myself. So you said back in 2004, I was in 7th grade, Rob. At that time, I was 12 years old, I believe. And things have changed drastically from then. We are not even allowed down near the court where things take place unless you're credentialed to have a media seat down there. I know during the Big Ten tournament, I was just trying to get down to look and see the media row right by courtside. And they're like, no. You go upstairs. Like your credentials for upstairs. So we don't even get access to these teams until after the game. So, but they are always locked in. But the one thing I love about this Minnesota team, when you watch them, they're always smiling. They're always laughing. They're always having fun. And that's been their secret to success this year. Very rare do they have that stoic look where they're ignoring everybody and just have this mean face and they're locked on. They're all smiling and giggling before the game, even down 8 in some games. And I think that's why they've been so successful.
All right. Well, a win tonight sends them to the Elite 8 on Sunday and would extend your trip in the VIP suite there.
Yep, it surely will. So we're going to keep our fingers crossed and hope for the best.
All right. Ahmad Hicks in Sacramento. We'll be looking for everything you got for us later on today. It should be fun.
Gotcha. See you later.
Thanks, Ahmad. Appreciate it. All right. Well, we're going to take a quick break now, but before we go, it's a cooler day today, a brisker day today with the winds, but we've got warmer temperatures coming right behind that. Let's check with the forecast with Jared Piepenberg.
Nice to see some sunshine out there, but even with that March sun, it's still kind of a chilly day here across the area, and that breeze has been picking up. Thought I'd talk a little about the wind because it's going to influence our weather so much today and especially into tomorrow, and then those winds will finally start to back off into your Sunday forecast. But those local lakes, some of them, the ice is pulling away from the shorelines, and with the breeze and warmer temperatures on the way, we're going to see this probably change a lot over the next couple of days. But wind speeds here have been picking up. It's going to get kind of gusty. Sustained winds are in the teens and near 20 miles per hour. Gusts today will be hitting 25 to 30, maybe a little bit above 30 miles per hour. So not our windiest day, but this afternoon into the evening hours, you'll notice that. So that's how we're going to close off our Friday. And the winds are going to be out of the northwest, which is a cold wind direction. So really no help in the feels good department. Those wind chills will play a factor. Even our warmest part of the day, it's probably going to feel like 20s or upper 20s out there. Heading into Saturday, winds kind of briefly back off overnight tonight, then pick up out of the south as we head throughout the day on Saturday. This is going to usher in some warmer temperatures, but it's going to be windier tomorrow. Gusts could be hitting in the 30s, even some 40s down in southern parts of Minnesota. So plan on a pretty gusty Saturday, but then winds back off on Sunday, and Sunday just looks so nice out there. So your Friday forecast, just cold and breezy, 38 later on today with some sunshine. Windy and warming, I'm calling it partly cloudy, but we're going to go from 38 to 58, although tomorrow morning is going to be cold to wake up to. And then your Sunday forecast, really nice. Maybe the pick day of the whole upcoming 7-day trend here, as we'll top off just shy of 70. Winds are going to be light with plenty of sunshine, and that day is landing on a weekend.
Oh.
Welcome back to All Day Live here on this Friday afternoon. Rob Olson sitting in for Amy today. Minnesota soybean farmers are searching for more buyers after what's been a pretty turbulent year. 2025, of course, marked by a trade war with China that caused them to pull back on buying U.S. soybeans, many of which come from Minnesota in this region. Of course, the U.S. and China reached a deal last fall to resume soybean trade, which was a big boost to the soybean farmers that were worried a lot here. But of course, that doesn't mean you stop there. Minnesota growers still looking to plant new seeds for broader business. So joining me now is Glenn Groth or Groth? I guess I should have asked ahead of time the pronunciation of your name.
Growth, but you wouldn't be the first one to make that mistake. That's all right.
I'm sure. Well, Growth is an appropriate name for a soybean farmer. You're chair of the Northern Soy Marketing. Your group just returned from a trade trip to Vietnam. Now, let's start with a little bit of history here with the turbulence of last year. What this kind of the trade deal with China then late October, what that did in terms of kind of getting things back on track for the, easing the worries of soybean farmers. Where are you at now with that?
Yeah, anytime we see trade disruption, it creates questions in the minds of our international buyers. Are we a reliable supplier? Will the winds of politics change their supply of American soybean meal? So, the job of these trade missions to go overseas is talk to our buyers and let them know that, we provide a quality product, we're reliable as a consumer, and we're happy to do business with them. We have a sustainability message that we're really proud of, and we want them to think of America first when they go to choose where to source their animal protein needs.
Yeah. So again, even with the resumption of trade with China, that doesn't mean you stop continuing to try to find other markets, especially to try to buffer any future trade turbulence with other countries. Tell me about this trip to Vietnam. When you went, how many went, and what all you saw there, or who you visited with to try to really boost trade there?
Yep, I got into Vietnam the Monday the 16th. Really our job over there was to visit with feed millers and people who import soybean meal primarily for feeding poultry and aquaculture species and swine, and really help them understand why our soybean meal is the best fit for their business. On our trade mission with myself, I provided a farmer perspective. I can give little updates about what's going on a typical Minnesota behind what makes our soybeans unique and what how they offer the best value for our overseas customers. We also had two poultry nutritionists. One is based out of Australia, the other is based out of Bangkok, Thailand. And they have a real on-the-ground perspective of what the feed milling industry over there looks like. Really, when we're talking about exporting soybeans and soybean meal to Southeast Asia, the primary user of that are feed mills going for animal agriculture. So it's really answering those questions, providing that perspective really helps them think of us first when they come to sourcing their protein needs for feeding their livestock. We also had a trader from AGP, which is a large soybean processor here in the Midwest. They export American soybean meal, so we're happy to have them along to really kind of provide real on-the-ground information about what freight looks like and soybean pricing situations, so we can answer really any question that our customers might have.
Well, tell me about the sales pitch then here, if you can call it that. I mean, what do you tell people about what makes soybeans and soy meal from this part of the world better than others?
Well, we got to start with what makes us different first. Soybean meal from this region oftentimes, and soybeans in general for that matter, have just slightly lower protein levels than that found in South America. So on paper, it might look like our soybeans are at a disadvantage, but when you dive into the science, you understand what the animal actually needs to grow. Our soybeans actually have a favorable characteristics for our international buyers, slightly higher in energy content, which is like things like starch and sugar. It helps the animal grow, and things like proteins, which build muscle. We have the correct proteins in our soybeans versus others that really gives us an advantage. And the other thing you have to consider, if it's very cold in Minnesota, Our soybeans, after they're harvested, they go into the grain bin and they're kept cold. They're basically kept in the refrigerator all the time. And after they're taken to a soybean processing plant, they're still kept cold. And they get loaded on a train full of soybean meal, and that's cold, and it goes into a ship cold. Basically, our soybeans are kind of kept refrigerated a lot of the year versus South America, where it's hot and steamy and humid during harvest season, and those soybeans and subsequently the soybean meal can start to degrade much quicker. So we really want to talk about that. We also talk about the fact, sustainability is important as those Southeast Asian nations, grow in wealth and economic prosperity. They want to choose animal products that are fed with soybeans that have sustainable characteristics, which ours do. We're very proud of our conservation agriculture and, using cold weather to our advantage to manage pests. And that gives us overall a great selling point when it comes to talk to our buyers.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. And when you do these trade missions, and again, you're trying to get countries to buy your product from here, is this something where they're already getting them from somewhere else and you're trying to convince them to not buy there and to buy here, or are they just looking to add to what they're already importing?
Sometimes both. In some cases, they're not using soybean meal and soybean protein already. We want to help them understand the advantage of using soybeans. In other cases, they're importing a lot from South America, and oftentimes, based on policy decisions, tariffs and import duties, and just the general price of soybeans in different countries, sometimes we're at a slight price disadvantage. But just because something is more expensive doesn't mean it's not a better deal. Sometimes less is more and more is less, and that's really what we like to talk about. Sometimes the cheaper option, such as getting soybean meal from other parts of the world, ends up costing them more in the long run. So we help them understand the science behind that, and ultimately it benefits the farmer. All right. So on the backside of this trip to Vietnam, what came out of that? We got any deals coming to export more of our beans? And what was your impression and takeaway now that you're back at home? Well, there's a broad understanding, thanks to a lot of these trade missions we've done, that, our soybeans and soybean meal do offer an advantage to our customers over there. Sometimes it's just a matter of getting the right price at the right time to try a larger shipload of soybeans and or soybean meal, so then they can use it in their feeding operations to, really see that it provides advantages to their animals. And in many cases, we are already purchasing a percentage of American soybean meal already. We just want a bigger chunk of that pie. On large markets such as Indonesia and Vietnam and Thailand, even a small percentage increase in soybean meal exports has big ramifications for the American farmers. So we just want a bigger piece of the market and make sure they have sustainable businesses and we have places to go with our products. All right. Well, and then finally, kind of circling back to where we started here after last year's, uncertainty with the trade with China, how are soybean farmers right now feeling today about, the stability of these markets? Yeah, there's a lot of apprehension. There's a lot of unknowns as to what's going to come down policy-wise. Of course, weather is always an impact. What's the weather going to do for the growing season? So it's always there's always a lot of question marks in the air when you're a farmer, but that's part of the business. That's what makes us tough. That's what makes us resilient. But overall, I think the long-term trend is optimistic. Soybean prices have increased here in the last month and a half. So some farmers are being able to market their crops at a profitable level, which is really a sigh of relief compared to where prices were around the end of the year and New Year's time frame. So you have to be optimistic to a certain extent when you're a farmer. And right now I'm feeling much better than I did before. And of course, getting a better understanding of international markets makes me feel good as well. So we're looking forward to the future. And lastly, not about soybeans, but just about travel. What was your impression of visiting Vietnam? I was really impressed. I've been to a few Southeast Asian countries already through this organization, but I found the people there to be industrious and optimistic and very friendly. I stayed in Ho Chi Minh City most of the time, and it was very walkable and friendly, and I wouldn't hesitate to go back.
All right. Thank you. Glenn Groth with the Minnesota soybean farmer and chair of Northern Soy Marketing. Thanks for sharing information about your trade trip to Vietnam. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right. Just about 12:30 now. We got some regional headlines we want to get through here, I believe, right now. And we are going to begin in Brainerd. You know, bear sightings are beginning in the area as bears are now emerging from hibernation. Yep, another big sign of spring. The Brainerd Dispatch reporting that the Minnesota DNR is now encouraging homeowners to take precautions to avoid those unwanted visits on their property. Every year I feel like I go somewhere to do stories about people who've got bears roaming around their yard. DNR suggests following the Bear-Wise checklist, which includes getting rid of the bird feeders, securing garbage, and your recycling. Don't leave your pet food outside. Clean your grills and smokers. All of those attract wandering bears. All right, now heading down to Rochester, where the Mayo Clinic has received a $75 million gift for its upcoming logistics building. This being reported by the Rochester Post-Bulletin that Thomas and Elizabeth Granger made the donation for the building, which is set to open in 2028. It's expected to be a technology hub with autonomous robots that will travel through underground tunnel to collect supplies from other buildings. Wow, very Jetson-like. I like that. All right, we're going to take a quick break here. A lot more to come here on All Day Live. Again, we're tracking some things at the state capitol. Going to bring you some information about some stuff that was already discussed shortly before we came on air, including the official state sled. Yes, that is a bill. We'll tell you about that and much more. All right, welcome back to All Day Live on this Friday. You know, we're getting into garage sale season here pretty soon. That starts ramping up here as the weather warms. And if you like them, they've already begun in the sense that Canterbury Park is where you're going to want to be this weekend. The Junk Bonanza. Yes, it's the Junk Bonanza. It reminds me of... I'm old. Sanford and Son. That's all I think of. But it's going on right now, and because I couldn't get out there, we sent Lauren Andrago to check out the. They call it a junk bonanza, but it's more like a combination of garage sale items, antique items, craft items. What have you found? It doesn't look like junk to me.
You nailed it, Rob. That is exactly the categories that you're going to find here at Junk Bonanza, from creators, vendors, collectors, crafters, all over the state and country come here twice a year to Canterbury to put on a heck of a show. I don't know if you can tell, but there's a lot of people here today. I think the cold weather brought them in. There's really something for everybody. You know, it is spring cleaning season, but I think everyone here has the opposite mentality. They're excited to bring some more treasures into their home. I want to introduce you to Terry from Retro De Novo Jewelry. She's making some really cool pieces out of silver and some other materials that you wouldn't even believe, Rob. Good afternoon. Thanks so much for chatting with me. Let's start with some of the jewelry in your hand, Terry. What is this bracelet made out of?
Well, it's an old piece of leather. I think it's from I'm trying to think. Anyways, old piece of leather with a spur on it with a Colt 45 ammunition casing.
Did you hear that? Colt 45 ammunition casing, and you're using, ammunition, gun shell cases, and repurposing them into some pretty remarkable pieces of jewelry. You have some rings, too. Can you tell me about these?
These are, this one's a spoon, an old spoon that I put a Winchester bullet on with a little filigree from a silver tray. And then this is another ring that I made out of turquoise sterling and a Federal 357 Magnum ammunition casing with a handmade flower around it.
Wow. How long does it take you to put like one of these rings together?
Depending on the ring, the sterling ones take at least 2 to 3 hours because they're soldered and cut specifically to the size of whatever I'm using. And then the spoon rings, maybe a little less time than that.
You come to quite a few of these shows. You've been doing this for about 15 years. What do you love most about being here and meeting all of these people?
The people. This is part of my social life. The people keep coming back year after year, and we just laugh. It's just fun.
I love it. Terry, thank you so much. Best of luck to you. I'm going to be back for some of these bracelets, maybe a pair of boots. You meet a lot of really cool people here. There's a lot of girls groups. I saw a bachelorette party, and there's one person here. Go right ahead. No, guys, ladies, come on through. We're all friends here. There's one person here who knows every single person's name. His name is John. He's the organizer of Junk Bonanza. You put all of this together. Good afternoon, buddy. For someone who's never been here before, how do you explain Junk Bonanza to them?
I thought you did a pretty good job on your own. It's just a great collection of stuff. New, a little bit of new, 99% old, made by people, reimagined by people, and then just collectible and decorative items and things like that. And you can just walk around here and you see pretty much everything.
Yeah, it's beyond a craft fair. It's beyond a flea market. It's got a little bit of each of those corners of shows.
Exactly. We try to take the best of everything. It's not a craft show per se, but we sell things here sometimes. You can't buy this in stores.
Yeah.
We've got a guy that makes gourmet salts, and it's just amazing. But you can't buy it anywhere but here. So it's fun.
So, John, what is your advice to people who are coming for the first time and they get shocked with overwhelm when they walk in the door?
Walk slowly, and then walk an aisle 2 ways. Go down one way and turn around and walk the same aisle the other way, because the way your eyes work, it's a totally different experience.
I didn't even think about
I got
that.
that from a 93-year-old great aunt of mine who owned an antique store. So
Wow.
there you go.
I love it. What do you love most about this weekend? It seems like a bunch of fun, hardworking, passionate people who are coming together.
It is, both the vendors and the people that are here. I just like the people. Everybody here is a little quirky because there's something that they're interested in. They love jewelry, they love old sporting equipment or books or whatever. And we get them all. And then every dealer caters to somebody else's needs. So it's really fun.
Speaking of quirky, you've got something quirky behind you. Tell me about it.
Well, this is something, I just found this out here. And I understand you got recently engaged.
That is true.
Get a shot of this.
What is this, John?
It's your wedding gown.
It says your wedding gown. It looks like a giant book. What is this box?
It's just, I don't know, I just found it. But
No,
it's
you didn't.
a gate, it's just a box for a wedding gown in here. And that was what somebody gave somebody. So, I don't know if it'll fit, but you might want to try it on.
Maybe at $24 and it can be yours.
You're not going to do that well at a bridal shop.
Well, no, seriously. Who's the vendor behind this?
Greg Bartholomew Picket Fence. He's up in the front of the building up there. So I just walked by and saw it a minute ago, and I thought you had to have it.
Seriously. Well, thank you for that. Very thoughtful of you. For people who want to come tomorrow, what do they need to know before they arrive?
Well, we're going to be open from 9 to 4. And we'll have a little line out there at 9, but it'll be great. We'll get you right in, and away you go.
Awesome. John, thank you so much.
Well, thanks for coming back out.
I appreciate it.
Good to have you.
Best of luck. All right, Rob, there you heard it. 9 to 4 tomorrow. Tickets cost $10 at the door. And you're going to want to come fast because the good stuff, it goes quickly. I did try looking for something that you asked for. You were looking for those oil containers that were turned into cows.
Yeah, the oil
Haven't
drum
found
cow.
it yet.
Yeah.
Yeah, the oil drum cow, yes. I haven't found one yet, but John's shaking his head. He says they're here. John's going to look for it, and we're going to find one for you.
Really? Always want. I've got a good friend of mine that really wanted to put one in her yard, and then it got me thinking I need
Here's
one
a
too.
glass pig that Rod said maybe this will do instead. This is a glass piggy bank.
Oh, yeah.
Kind of the same idea.
Yeah, kind of, except I'm looking for the yard decor version, the big...
you want the homemade painted oil container.
Yeah,
yes, we will look for that for you.
Cow.
A lot of people reimagining junk into something much better.
Yeah, makes it fun. Looks like there's a lot. I mean, that's one of those kind of treasure hunting experiences out there, isn't it?
100%. And I should mention there is a bar here, so you can do a couple of hours, go get drinks and a snack, and then come back, do another loop.
Well, you just convinced me. Okay. Thanks, Lauren. All right, there you go. The Junk Bonanza at Canterbury. Other news here at the Capitol. Democrats in the House holding a press conference, and we're talking about the state capitol here this morning to discuss their frustrations over bills that they say most Minnesotans want passed, but they accuse Republicans of trying to block them despite that. Democrats are referring to legislation regarding bans on assault-style weapons and limitations to federal immigration enforcement. Democrats saying their fight is not over, that they'll continue to work to pass these bills as the session now reaches its halfway point. Let's take a listen.
The overwhelming majority of Minnesotans want strong action to stop gun violence, and the overwhelming majority of Minnesotans want us to rein in ICE and prevent them from doing terrible things at schools and other safe places that should be safe. Last night, every single Republican in the Minnesota House of Representatives voted to block progress on both of those issues. We are very disappointed, but we are not deterred, and this is not over. I have been saying for months now that House DFLers will use every tool in the toolbox to have meaningful action occur on gun violence and on ICE. And last night we used one of those tools and forced a vote on the House floor on bills that are critically important to Minnesotans. These are issues that most Minnesotans don't find controversial. It is really only in the Capitol that people think that it's controversial whether ICE should be involved in schools. And it's only controversial here when people are talking about whether people should have these weapons of war on our streets. It is incredibly frustrating and disappointing that not one House Republican was willing to side with the average Minnesotans, not to mention the families and parents of Annunciation children.
All right, that was a press conference this morning from Democrats in the House at the state capitol talking about this at the halfway point roughly of the legislative session. Ryan, we are now looking at a live picture from the U.S. Capitol. This is at the U.S. House of Representatives here. They've been on recess since about 9:30 this morning. We're waiting for them to come back in, and we know, though, that they've been doing a lot of closed-door meetings here, trying to hash out what they're going to do with what the Senate sent them today, which is a deal to get DHS funded, except for immigration enforcement.
Yeah, as you mentioned off the top, the Senate providing some hope to end some of these long lines that we're seeing at airports across the country. I'm looking at Atlanta and Houston right now. Atlanta's looking a little bit better, but Houston, we're still seeing some of those long lines. So the Senate providing some light at the end of this tunnel right now. But there are a group of House Republicans who are set to kind of derail this effort right now. They want included into this funding package immigration enforcement, and that is what this is all about. The Senate trying to separate that in an effort to get airports back to normal operations and fund TSA and get those workers back. But there is a group of House Republicans who are threatening to derail that effort unless they include immigration enforcement funding into this bill here. Speaker Johnson is set to hold a press conference here and provide an update on what he's hearing and what the plan is here moving forward.
Yeah, last I read, he went into his office with members of the House Freedom Caucus, which are the more conservative wing of the House Republicans, who are the ones that are really taking a hard line here, including that immigration funding in this. And also there's been a push by President Trump to include the Save America Act, which is the voting reforms that he wants to require voter ID, to require proof of citizenship when you register to vote, and to limit the use of mail-in ballots. And so he's been insisting that he wants to make sure nothing here gets passed without also passing that. Obviously, that is not what came out of the Senate. They didn't do that. So now this comes to the House and trying to figure out what happens. And there was, of course, a big push to try to get this done, not just because of what's happening at the airports, but because there's now a 2-week break in Congress. And so you've got a massive problem at U.S. airports, and Congress set to go on a 2-week hiatus here.
Yep.
So that is why the Senate worked so late into the night. I know John Thune had said that, you know what, senators, you may not get to go home on your break. We're going to have to stay here if we don't get this done. So that put a lot of fuel into that in that effort to try to get this taken care of.
Absolutely. So we will keep an eye on this, and when Speaker Johnson comes to that podium, we'll try to bring you some of that.
All right, we'll keep an eye on that. Going to take a break, but we're going to talk about the weather here for a minute as we deal with kind of a cold day after a beautiful couple of days earlier this week. Now a couple of cold days, a couple more beautiful days ahead as we are now 1 week from the Twins home opener as well. So let's hear from meteorologist Jared Piepenburg.
Oh, what a day. We've had such up and down temperature trend lately, and today is one of those downward trends that we've continued in March, just riding this roller coaster. The breeze has been picking up. It's creating that wind chill factor out there. It's just a chilly day. It's a brisk one with that northwest wind and temperatures climbing into those 30s, but feeling like 20s this morning. Northern Minnesota felt like lower single digits. I saw International Falls really early this morning, feeling sub-zero. It was brief, but still cold. And with this northwest wind, trying to just, make something out of it with that tiny bit of moisture. I've seen some flurries up around Duluth. That's kind of occurring here just east of Fargo this morning. So we've had some sunshine for a while. As we head toward the afternoon hours, a kind of a mix of sun and clouds will continue here over the area. If you're heading out this evening, it'll still be a little bit of a breeze, but it will start to back off. Here's Saturday. Tomorrow, southwest winds, partly cloudy sky. Winds are really going to rev up out there across southern Minnesota. And we'll definitely notice that breeze around the metro and the north central parts of the state as well, but strongest winds will be closer to the border with Iowa with gusts 35 to 40 plus, not out of the question. I don't think those 40-mile-an-hour wind gusts will occur in the metro, but may top off a little bit over 30 miles per hour for your Saturday. It'll be a pretty windy one out there, but it's a warmer wind directions, where today's a cold wind direction. So we go cold today. We're climbing out of that cold pool tomorrow with that south and southwest wind, and then looks really, really mild into Sunday. Pretty quiet weather as we head throughout the weekend. Just dealing with the wind for tomorrow and some pretty dry conditions overall. So today, 38, feeling like 28, about the warmest part of the day. Just a tad on the breezy side here. Staying cold all day long with that northwest wind. Nice to see all the sunshine with just some clouds cruising on through. Tonight, mostly clear sky. We're down to 24, so cold start. Taking the dog out for a walk early in the morning, or maybe someone likes to just get outside and go for a walk or go for a jog. It will be chilly out there to wake up to. Winds will be light just for a little while in the morning, and then those winds are picking up out of the south and southwest. We're going to top off around 58 tomorrow after 38. So another 20 degrees warmer tomorrow, but we're dealing with the wind. So the morning hours may have had that wind chill factor for a little while. And then as we continue to the afternoon, won't notice as much, but you'll still notice the wind, just not the wind chill playing a factor. And yeah, pretty gusty, partly cloudy sky, winds back off into Sunday, which will just make for a really nice day. But today it's just going to be cold. I mean, mid-20s for highs up north. We're well below average by roughly 10 degrees in the Twin Cities. Average high now approaching those upper 40s. As we head overnight tonight, here's tomorrow morning. Teens, potentially lower teens, maybe even some pockets of lower single digits out there. 20s down in the south. As we head towards Saturday afternoon, a few will hit that 60-degree mark. Be breezy, gusty, but almost from north to south. The majority could hit those 50s with some pocket 60s and maybe slightly cooler up in the northeastern parts of the state. 38 today. Down to 24 for tomorrow. We got the breeze today, the windy conditions tomorrow. Tomorrow, again, the winds out of the south and southwest. We're up to 58. We gain another 10 degrees heading into Sunday. Sunday's the pick day, the forecast. It's looking gorgeous. Plenty of sunshine, light winds, 68. Everyone's going to be out and about. The majority hopefully can find some time to do that. As we head toward Monday looking pretty similar to Sunday, where Sunday really won't feature a whole lot of wind. There may just be a slight breeze here and there, but still both days are looking really, really nice. And there's hints of maybe Monday even potentially being warmer than Sunday. We'll see if that trend will continue. Either way, looks really nice. As we head toward midweek, there's a few waves of energy sliding through the upper atmosphere through our area. Could knock down temperatures, bring a couple rounds of some showers. Doesn't look like any big systems right now, but we could see some April showers and maybe even close out March with a couple of drip drops here and there. That's the way things are shaping up as we finish out the month of March and head into early April.
All right, welcome back to All Day, live on this Friday. Ryan Radlin, the maestro, at the helm, back in the command center.
And we're with Leo, also a maestro.
And Leo, we never get to see Leo.
No, he's not. We can't let him on camera. We just can't.
He's the quiet but powerful force that makes this engine run.
Yep.
Right?
Yep.
Leo?
He's the one behind the curtain. Yep.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, he's just going to stay out of it.
The great and powerful.
Did you get a chance to watch much of the Twins season opener yesterday afternoon?
You know, I was at work here yesterday, so the answer to your question, Rob, is yes, absolutely. I watched it. For work purposes, right? Because we have to talk about it.
Gotta know.
I caught a little bit of it. The positive, Joe Ryan did very well in his outing, pitching just over 5 innings. He looked good. and he is now the de facto ace of this staff with Pablo Lopez on the injured reserve, or out for the season, I should say. So that was the good, but they struggled to score runs.
Yeah.
And Baltimore does not have one of the better pitching staffs in baseball, so, and now it's one game. So
in the end, I mean, it was a close game in that it was 2-1.
yeah,
But I believe, was it 8 runners stranded on base? I think I heard.
that sounds about
Something
right.
in that ballpark, I should say.
Yeah,
No pun intended.
something like that. But only one game, so it's a long season. So don't hit the panic button yet.
And Byron Buxton, I mean, I was watching Jim Rich's highlights yesterday, and seeing, was it Buxton that hit a triple?
Buxton hit a triple. I think he scored the only run for the Twins.
Yeah.
Yeah, he got in on a sac fly then.
Yeah, and he was booking around the bases.
When he's booking, it's fun. So
they play again tomorrow in Baltimore.
yeah,
Camden.
off day today. MLB does this to give kind of the weather in March and April, as we know, can be unpredictable
Yep.
for most of the country. So they always put buffer in a day there in case they need to shift things around.
Yeah,
so.
it's always after the opener, where the next day is in case you have to slide the opener. You don't want to have to reschedule the opener. So,
Right.
the Wild playing last night, I was flipping back between the Wild game and the Nebraska-Iowa Hawkeye game. The Wild winning 3-2 with, like, I think it was 3 seconds, 3.8 seconds or something like that.
Yeah, they put a little more time back on the clock, but it was roughly 3-4 seconds.
Yeah, Eriksson Ek, while falling down.
Yeah, just kind of
Yeah, I
pushed
just
it
love that when
forward.
you see it in slow motion and they're like, and they got it in. It was a fun game to watch. It was disappointing to me in the fact that Florida is nowhere near playoff contention.
No.
And they managed to tie the game with an empty net goal. And I thought, these are the teams that the Wild shouldn't be coming down to potential overtime. And it was 4 seconds away from going to overtime. These are the teams that they should be handily beating, and they don't. We see the same thing going on with the Timberwolves, right? Where
You do, yeah.
Where they're you think they should play better against teams that they should absolutely beat.
Yeah, and you'd like to see the goal for the Wild is they're probably going to face Dallas in the first round. I think they're like 5 points behind Dallas, something like that. You'd like to see that flip so that the Wild could have home ice against Dallas, because right now they would have to start the series in Dallas, and then a potential Game 7 would also be in Dallas. So you'd like to try to flip that a little bit.
It was nice to see Marcus Foligno back on the ice, and he got a goal, and he got a goal with his brother Nick, just a few feet away from them. So immediately in that, the traditional hockey congratulatory group hug that you get after a goal, Nick Foligno was right there with his brother.
Yeah.
Those two on the ice together.
Pretty cool.
First time since high school.
That's crazy. Now let's get Jack over here with Quinn, right?
Well, I know there's a lot of talk about either Quinn goes to Jack or Jack comes here to Quinn, and so we know how we want that to play out.
Right.
And then I mentioned flipping back and forth between that game and the Hawkeye-Nebraska game. The Hawkeyes, and my brother is I don't even know how I would describe how big a Hawkeye fan he is in everything, and he didn't think they were going to win the first game. And
Wild, they're 9 seed, so.
Yeah, pleasantly surprised there, pleasantly surprised again, and then last night, quite the upset, because I don't think they were even, they were trailing in that game for most of the game. When I watched the end, I turned on just in time to see them hit a three-pointer to tie it at 65, and then they went on to beat Nebraska 77-71.
A great game, and Iowa just keeps, they already slayed Florida, the defending champs, so they beat them. Now they take down Fred Hoiberg in Nebraska. They just keep hanging around, and they're hitting big shots when it counts. Interesting thing last night, I don't know if you caught this, Rob, in one of the key plays that kind of ended the game, really. Nebraska only had 4 players on the court.
I did catch that, and that's right towards the end of the game when all of a sudden Nebraska looked completely discombobulated, like they couldn't hit anything after leading most of the game, and all of a sudden they looked like their wheels fell off, and one of those wheels was one of the 5 players that was supposed to be on the court.
Right.
And because they were still trying to check into the game, when the ball was thrown in.
Yeah, unclear how it happened, but I know Hoiberg touched on it, the coach from Nebraska, in his press conference, and kind of suggested he maybe would have hoped for some help from the officials to count, but that didn't happen, and it's not really their job to do so.
No, I mean, they count to make sure there's not too many men,
right?
I'm a hockey term, too many men on the ice, too many men on the court.
Yeah.
But do they count to make sure there's enough? Hoiberg even said, I don't know what the rules are there.
Yeah.
Is it their duty before the game restarts, by inbounding the ball, should they be counting to see if everyone's out there?
Yeah, I think the answer is no.
Apparently
if
not.
They don't have enough. Yeah.
No, that's on you. And Hoiberg did say, that one is on me.
Yeah. So, fun game, though. Fun night in sports last night, really.
It was. It's just a fun time of year for sports in general.
All right. Take a quick break here, Rob.
Yep, got a lot more to come. We're waiting on, I think you've got eyes on whether Speaker Mike Johnson is heading to the podium. That's one thing that we want to let people know, that we keep this up. You never know when they're going to head out there, but when they do, it's going to be talking about trying to get DHS refunded and get TSA agents paid again and get those who've been calling in sick to come back to work. So
yeah, big deal for anyone potentially who's flying out next week.
Yeah. like yourself,
like myself.
Yeah.
So let's go here.
All right, we're gonna keep watching that. We'll be right back here on All Day Live on this Friday.
Today.
All right, welcome back to All Day Live. Friday afternoon, Rob Olson sitting in for Amy Hockert today. Hope you're enjoying, if you can call it that, our brisker weather today. But you will enjoy the warm-up coming for tomorrow and Sunday and into Monday. And certainly warmer weather will be appreciated tomorrow for thousands who'll be attending No Kings rallies taking place across the country, including a major rally in St. Paul tomorrow. Organizers expect that St. Paul rally to be one of the biggest, expected to draw tens of thousands of people, and some pretty big names taking part in this, including Bruce Springsteen. Of course, he'll be kicking off a concert tour at Target Center coming up here in the next week or so, but he will be on hand to perform his song, Streets of Minneapolis. Also attending, U.S. Senator Bernie Sanders Lieutenant Governor Peggy Flanagan, Minnesota Attorney General Keith Ellison, but some other big names here too. Jane Fonda, Joan Baez, Maggie Rogers, all scheduled to be there. It kicks off at noon with some marches from 3 different locations in St. Paul: Harriet Island, St. Paul College, and the Western Sculpture Park, and then meet at the Capitol at 2 o'clock. And there are some road closures to be aware of as well because of the numbers of people. So make sure that you check in on that if you're planning to drive down there, or if you're planning to drive anywhere around that region that might be affected by that. So that's happening tomorrow. We'll, of course, be covering that extensively here on Fox 9. We are learning today about the arrest of a Minnesota State representative named Elliot Engen on suspicion of drunk driving. The news comes from White Bear Lake Police, who say Engen was pulled over for speeding, expired tabs, and a broken headlight. And they say a breath test then showed he was at a .13, which is, of course, well over the legal limit to drive, which is .08 in Minnesota. He was then booked into the Ramsey County Jail on 4th-degree DWI, then released. Engen's a Republican who represents Lino Lake, Centerville, North Oaks, White Bear Township, 27 years old, the youngest member in the legislature, also running for Minnesota State Auditor. Now, we got a statement from House Speaker Lisa Demuth, who says she's extremely disappointed to learn about this arrest and will consider further consequences as this legal process unfolds. And Engen himself just released his own brief statement to us, saying, "To my family, colleagues, and constituents, I am deeply sorry. I strive to be a man of great character, and my actions fell short last night. I will learn from this. I will do better." Other news, a public memorial for Jessie Pierce and her 3 children will take place Sunday in White Bear Lake. A visitation happening from 1 to 5 o'clock Sunday at Mueller Memorial in White Bear Lake. Of course, the tragic news here when Jessie and her 3 children, Hudson, Caden, and Avery, were all killed in a house fire last weekend. Jessie's husband released a statement yesterday thanking everybody for their support, including first responders, the White Bear Lake community, as well as the Minnesota Wild and the NHL. Of course, Jessie worked as a reporter for the Wild for NHL.com. She also had her own hockey podcast. The cause of this fire is still not determined fully exactly how it started, but the authorities did say they did determine the fire was not started intentionally. All right, we want to bring in now Fox 9 reporter Mike Manzoni, who's following up on a story that we've covered here on All Day Live. Certainly a talker at the state capitol, which is what we brought to you the other day. We had an interview with the chief medical officer at Hazelden, Betty Ford, about Kratom. And Mike, I know you're following up today on the proposed changes in Minnesota law that would increase the age to buy Kratom from 18 to 21. There are states out there like Wisconsin that have banned it outright. I know Connecticut was just added to that list as well. And questions here about whether Minnesota needs to go further like these other states have done. What are you working on today?
So Connecticut banned it just this week. That ban took effect on the 25th, so 2 days ago. Wisconsin, you mentioned, they banned it more than a decade ago. There are a handful of bills, 4 of them, really 2 though. One of them would raise the age from 18 to 21, and that is the one that if you talk with co-sponsors, they'll tell you that that's the one that they think might have a chance at passing this session. Another one would make it a Schedule II substance. That still doesn't go as far as Wisconsin, Connecticut, or a handful of other states, but it would basically require a prescription. So it would be a more stringent regulation than what we have now, which is nothing. I spoke with a Chanhassen woman yesterday. She's been kind of lobbying to get some regulation, if not an outright ban, then to at least get one or both of these bills passed. Her son did not use Kratom, but was addicted to opioids for years and ultimately died of an accidental overdose about a decade ago. He was just 20 years old. And so she's gotten involved in talking with students and traveling around the state to schools, talking to people about opioid addiction. And that's how she kind of got involved with Kratom, because the FDA has said that there is evidence that that can be addictive as well. In some cases, rare cases, but it can lead to overdose deaths. We've talked to a woman from Circle Pines whose sister died from a Kratom overdose just a couple of years ago. She was only 42, got it at a gas station in one of those little vials. She used it for anxiety, checked into a motel, and they found her there dead a short time later with several empty bottles next to her body. So there's another substance out there called 7-OH, and the way doctors have described it to me, I spoke with an addiction specialist about an hour ago. He works in St. Cloud. He says he's been seeing a lot more of this. Maybe he was getting one patient a week, and now is maybe getting 4 or 5 of them. It's basically an offshoot of Kratom is the way they describe it, but it's even more addictive. And he says that he's seen people spend, hundreds, sometimes even thousands of dollars a week to just kind of support their habit. And in some cases, he has to put them on, methadone to kind of wean them off it, which is similar to what they, which is what they put people on to wean them off opioids. So there's just been a lot of discussion in recent weeks because it is being discussed at the state capitol. And it does sound like at least one of the bills, the one that would raise the age limit to 21, does have a chance at passing this session. It does have bipartisan support. But the woman who we spoke with a couple times now, whose sister died, she was 42. So she said this bill would have, really done nothing for her. There are a lot of states that have made it Schedule 1, which means you can't even get it with a prescription. That includes Wisconsin and states like Connecticut. There is no proposal, though, at least not right now, here in Minnesota, to go quite that far.
Yeah.
And some think that's a mistake.
Yeah, and that's what, I heard some of the testimony opposing some of the Kratom legislation the other day, opposing making it either Schedule 1 or an outright ban, from people who say they do use this, like the leaf form of it, for anxiety and how it's really helped them. But there's the different forms. You mentioned that people can buy this in capsule or powder form, whether at gas stations or order it online, and then there's no real oversight or regulation of the ingredients in there. Of the it is in some cases a little bit of Wild West, isn't it?
Well, the FDA doesn't regulate it, and so that means there's no kind of process in place to kind of go through and test the ingredients, to verify what is actually in it. You talk with doctors, and they'll tell you that when you get it, even if you read the label and the label says it's X amount of grams or whatever it is, you really don't know what you're getting, and you're kind of just taking them at their word. These companies, there are dozens of them out there that make it. We went to a smoke shop in Eden Prairie the other day and got a small bottle of pills and a small kind of bottle of liquid, kind of almost resembles an energy drink. It's relatively inexpensive, maybe $10, $15 or so. And the labeling it's very small print, usually says that it's not FDA approved. One label even said that it's not for human consumption, but that is what people are doing with it. So you don't know what you're getting is really the bottom line.
Well, that's interesting. If you can buy a bottle of this and it says not for human consumption, what are they selling it for then? Because they're selling it to humans. Why would it say that? And that it really is kind of a lot of just opaqueness out there about what to do with this.
And part of it is when you talk with doctors, you talk with people like that woman from Chanhassen who's been involved with kind of lobbying to get some regulation here in Minnesota. They'll tell you that there's a sense that a lot of people don't really know about it, and that includes lawmakers. Many people either have maybe a vague understanding of it, maybe they've heard about it but don't know anything about it, and so in their view that maybe has contributed to kind of this being a relatively slow process. The addiction doctor in St. Cloud I talked with a little while ago said that this has really flown under the radar for a while now. He said he remembers treating his first patient 10 years ago. And it seems like to a lot of people, where we're just starting to really talk about this and take it seriously now, at least here in Minnesota.
Yeah, 10 years ago, and here we are still. I mean, nothing has changed in 10 years. All right. Mike, thanks so much. We'll look forward to seeing that later on today, and appreciate you continuing. I mean, you've been doing a lot of work on this all week long, so appreciate that you kind of continue on this to try to help everybody understand what's going on here.
Right, thank you.
All right, thanks, Mike. We're going to take a quick break here. Again, we continue to watch on the Capitol Hill in Washington, D.C. to hear from House Speaker Mike Johnson as the House prepares to take up what the Senate sent them early this morning, which was a bill to get DHS funded again, except for immigration actions, but it would get TSA workers paid again. The House expected to take that up today. They haven't yet. They've been meeting behind closed doors to try to figure out where to go forward. And again, waiting to hear from House Speaker Mike Johnson on what to expect today. So we're going to keep an eye on that, take a break, but right now hear about what you can expect with the weather.
Nice to see some sunshine out there, but even with that March sun, it's still kind of a chilly day here across the area, and that breeze has been picking up. Thought I'd talk a little about the wind because it's going to influence our weather so much today and especially into tomorrow, and then those winds will finally start to back off into your Sunday forecast. But those local lakes, some of them, the ice is pulling away from the shorelines, and with the breeze and warmer temperatures on the way, we're going to see this probably change a lot over the next couple of days. But wind speeds here have been picking up.
Dangerous, criminal, illegal aliens.
Rob, we're going to take you out to Washington. This is Speaker Mike Johnson talking about the DHS funding bill.
Fundamentally disagree. The Senate Democrats have hoisted upon this appropriations process their radical, crazy agenda. We call it crazy because that's what it is. They want to reopen the borders, and they want to stop the deportation of dangerous, criminal, illegal aliens. We have to do these basic functions of government. We have to fund them in order to do them. In the last several days, we have recent examples of dangerous criminals in this country killing innocent Americans. We had an 18-year-old college student in Chicago, a young lady who was shot in the back by a dangerous criminal who had been released in that sanctuary city and first released at the border under Joe Biden. They opened the border wide for 4 years. Just yesterday, or in the last 36 hours or so, an 83-year-old man's pushed onto the subway tracks and run over by a dangerous criminal illegal alien. This has to stop. The Republicans are not going to be a party to this. They have taken hostage the funding processes of government so that they can impose their radical agenda on the American people when we can't have any part of it. This gambit that was done last night is a joke. I'm quite convinced that it can't be that every Senate Republican read the language of this bill, and I'm going to just read you one excerpt of it because it's pretty alarming, and it says everything that you need to know in Section 4. This is on page 2 of the bill. This is an actual copy of the bill. That excerpt. It says, quote, "The contents printed under the headings of this bill, U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement and Border Security Operations, under the heading of U.S. Customs and Border Patrol and Protection, shall have no force or effect for purposes of this Act, and amounts specified in the final bill under the subheading Border Security Operations and under the heading U.S. Customs and Border Protection and under the headings of U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement in the Department of Homeland Security shall be zero." We're not doing that. And it is unconscionable to me that the Democrats would force some sort of negotiation at 3 o'clock in the morning and try to hoist this upon the American people and then get on their jets and go home for their holiday and pretend and think that we're going to go along with that. So we're going to do something different. We're going to do the responsible thing. Republicans are going to continue to govern and do the right thing morally, legally, and politically. We are going to take care of those who take care of us. The employees in the Department of Homeland Security have gone without funding and without paychecks for 42 days. It's the second longest shutdown in U.S. history, bested only by the longest shutdown in U.S. history that these same radical Democrats hoisted upon the government in the fall of last year. 42 days they've gone without pay. We've had, by some estimates, close to 500 TSA agents who have resigned from their jobs, and who could blame them? They've gone half the fiscal year without a regular paycheck. We can't ask that of anyone. And the lines around the airlines and at the airports have been wrapped around the buildings because of all this turmoil. We are very grateful to have a strong commander-in-chief in the White House who has taken real leadership. President Trump has already ordered by executive order that TSA agents will be paid, and that machinery is in process right now. The Office of Management and Budget is working through that to make sure that that happens, and we will reduce the lines and the waits at the airlines, and we'll make sure that those who are protecting us are paid. But what we are going to present and what we're going to vote on this floor, our Rules Committee is working through this right now. We're going to put a clean, simple, continuing resolution that will go until May 22nd. It's just a number of weeks to allow for all those who sacrificially serve the country and protect other Americans. All these agencies, 10 agencies under the Department of Homeland Security, will continue at their current funding levels to make sure that they are protected. We're going to send that over to the Senate, and we hope that they'll accept that. They can do it in record time just like that with the unanimous consent. They could do that as early as Monday. In the meantime, TSA will be paid, we will have done our jobs, and we will protect the homeland, because that is the most basic responsibility of the Congress, is to protect the American people. We're not playing political games on this. We encourage some of our Democrats, hopefully we'll have some of our Democrats in the House who go along with this and stop the pain that's being forced upon these people. The reason that we can't accept this ridiculousness, okay, is because we're not going to risk not funding the agencies that keep the American people safe. The Department of Homeland Security is the third largest department in the federal government. It has 10 agencies beneath it. It's not just TSA, it's also FEMA, the Coast Guard, all these agencies that keep us safe. We must fund them. This is not a game. Republicans will do the responsible and honorable thing, and Democrats will continue to play politics.
Mr. Speaker, thank you, Mr. Speaker. You and John Thune are not on the same page. You came out and criticized Democrats. He was the engineer behind this. Why are you guys not on the same page? And are you not extending the shutdown? If you were to accept what the Senate had passed, this could end tonight and the TSA lines would shrink.
I wouldn't call John Thune the engineer of this. Chuck Schumer and the Democrats in the Senate. Chuck Schumer and the Democrats in the Senate have forced this upon the Senate. I have to protect the House. Let me answer the question, Chad. I have to protect the House, and I have to protect the American people. That's our responsibility. Our colleagues on this side understand this is not a game. We are not playing their games. These people want open borders, and they want criminal illegal aliens in the country. They do not want to enforce the law. They want to literally defund. You just read it in the bill here. They want to give $0 to enforcing federal immigration laws and keeping the border secure. That was the biggest issue in the election of 2024, the wide open border that Joe Biden and Kamala Harris hoisted upon the country. And 20 million, by some estimates, 20 million dangerous criminal illegal aliens included in that number came over the border. We have terrorists in our country. We have obviously murderers. They're putting it on display. And then these big blue cities that have sanctuary city policies, they're releasing these people onto the streets. They released them over the border when they came over under the Biden years. And that is the turmoil that we're facing right now, the very serious threats to the homeland and everybody. It's not just long lines at the airport. It is the danger and safety of everyone. We'll talk more after this is passed. We'll get it done.
Has the president endorsed this plan? Has the president endorsed this plan, Mr. Speaker? Has the president?
I spoke to the president a few moments ago. He understands exactly what we're doing and why, and he supports it. Yes.
Mr. Speaker,
thank you.
The American people are just sick and tired of every one of you, both Republicans and Democrats, come to this podium and blame the other side. People have been standing in lines 3, 4, 5 hours at a time. There's TSA workers that are selling their plasma. At what point is a leader on either side going to stand up and say, we have a path forward that everyone will agree to? This vote today will extend the shutdown under any circumstance.
No, it won't. No, it won't. Thank you. Let me answer the question. I'm glad you brought it up. The House Republicans have now voted that today will be the 4th time to fund the Homeland Security. This is not party blame game. This is a record. You can hold up the record. Look at the Democrats. They're voting over and over. Yesterday afternoon, we gave them a chance to fund Homeland Security. You know how many House Democrats voted yes? 4 of them. They want to use people as pawns. People are not pawns. These are workers who are sacrificially serving the country, many of them without pay, to make sure that you and your families are safe. And we're done with it. This is not a political blame game. This is one party doing the job and getting the government funded, and another that's using people as pawns. We're not going to do that. Listen, we're going to send it over there, and you can see what they do. If this is not UC'd and they don't do it, the president has shown leadership. He's going to fund TSA agents. We'll get that covered. But we have the rest of the country to take care of. We're not asking them to do anything heroic. These aren't partisan games. We're not adding bells and whistles to this. It is a clean continuation of funding to make sure that the most basic responsibility of government is fulfilled. And we'll see how that goes and see what they do.
All right, that's Speaker Mike Johnson clearly rejecting what the Senate passed early this morning, which is funding Department of Homeland Security except for the immigration component of it, because Democrats are pushing for changes in the way immigration enforcement is done. And that is why TSA has not been funded. But the idea coming out of the Senate is that, okay, well, we're going to fund everything but these things that we still want to negotiate on, having some other changes here. House Republicans clearly say that is dead on arrival. In the House, they don't want to do that. They want to fully fund the Department of Homeland Security, including ICE. And so they're going to be pushing for a kind of a short-term funding bill to fund everything and send that back to the Senate. So it doesn't look like this is still an impasse that is going to continue.
Yeah, Rob, I think if you woke up this morning and you saw the headlines and you thought that there was hope, that there was a light at the end of this tunnel, that this chaos that we're seeing at airports across the country will be coming to an end. You just heard from Speaker Johnson there. They are not on the same page. Even when we're talking about House Republicans and Senate Republicans, they don't seem to be on the same page for this. So back to the drawing board here, and we'll see if President Trump has anything to say on this. He is sometimes when things get chaotic, he has intervened. So we will see what the step from the White House could be on this.
And the continued, political blame game going back and forth from Democrats to Republicans and Republicans back to Democrats, where, the Democrats have had a number of proposals to fund TSA, or in this case, what came out of the Senate is to fund everything except ICE. ICE, of course, is still operating under funding that came out of the One Big Beautiful Bill. They have a large chunk of money there that they can continue to operate with. But again, the Republicans here saying, no, the Democrats are holding us hostage and causing these problems at the airports. But the Democrats say, no, we've had multiple proposals to fund TSA while we continue to negotiate on these other things. And it's the Republicans holding people hostage by not willing to fund TSA while we negotiate and everything else. So basically, they're both accusing each other of the same thing, and that is using this to kind of play chicken on this. So.
Yeah, and Robin, and here are the people who are impacted by this. This is a live look at Bush International Airport in Houston, Texas. And Houston has been one of these airports where we're seeing wait times of 4 or 5+ hours here as folks stand in line to head on spring break or wherever they might be going. So these are the people, when the questions were being asked to Speaker Johnson, these are the people who are directly impacted by it, and the TSA workers as well, who are not getting paychecks.
Yeah, and of course yesterday President Trump saying he'll use emergency powers to pay TSA agents. It's unclear exactly how that will work. We haven't seen any more details, at least I have not yet at this point to see any more details about how that's going to work or when that funding will kick in. So those are details we're awaiting today as well.
More to come on this, Rob. More to come. We'll take a quick break, though.
We'll be right back. cemetery in Duluth is facing some major problems of erosion. And when I say major, it's because erosion has exposed human remains near the Lake Superior shore. In fact, some have been found below the bluff there. Now, St. Louis County is seeking some state funding to address the problem at the Scandia Cemetery. This is right next to or near Glen Sheen Mansion. County Commissioner Patrick Boyle joining us now here to talk more about this, about the problem, what you're seeking for a potential solution. And first, let's talk about the cemetery itself. I read it dates back to 1881. It's very historic, and upwards of 1,500 graves on this site. So, I mean, this is something that that carries a lot of history for that area, too.
It does. You know, a little background how we got to this point is about 2.5 years ago, our county received a letter from a couple that basically said that they were in their 90s and they had been caretaking for the cemetery for a number of years, but were now entering elder care and couldn't take care of it anymore. So they wanted to basically have us take it over, which is very unique. Mm-hmm. So our county attorneys went to the state and looked up the statute. And basically for a nonprofit, it doesn't go tax forfeit. It just stays in limbo. So while we were learning that, at the same time, like you just spoke about, we had a young couple that was visiting Glen Sheen, one of our top tourist attractions in the Arrowhead region. And them and their kids walked across Tisha Creek over to the Scandia side of the shore and found a skull and some bones. So it became very immediate and dire for, I think, local government to step in.
Yeah.
Which we were able to do.
This, you know, to find that discovery, and I mean, obviously, then you're able to make a quick connection to where it came from. If it was another spot, it'd be even more kind of horrifying here. But then that, you know, leads to realizing that as the bluff erodes here, and I read it's up to 20 inches, a decade or so? Yeah, per decade. How many graves potentially have been affected by this erosion?
We think this has been going on for decades on the erosion side, and out of those graves, we've come up with about 40 or 50 of them that are in immediate jeopardy of being eroded into the lake at any given time. Mm-hmm. The one thing we know as good Minnesotans is that Lake Superior keeps doing what it's doing, and with erosion, we don't have the ice on the lake like we once did in the winter months to protect those waves, so we're getting it 24/7, 12 months a year. So it's significant and it needs to be dealt with as soon as possible.
Yeah, and the fixes here are not cheap. I know the first option is to build a concrete or fix a concrete retaining wall. The other is simply moving these to another area. The Scandinavian Cemetery Association that ran it, now looking to you, now you're looking to the state. You know, how expensive is this going to be, and is it even anything that the county could do on its own?
I think this is a perfect example of local governments working with the state to solve this issue. We've invested some dollars into the initial study to use an architecture firm to show us what was the best route, not only financially but ethically. You know, with all those bodies and where do we place them, I just don't feel that was the right way to go, and it was expensive. So we did come up with now a shovel-ready project that it's about $2.5 million to build this breaking wall, which the county would then take over the responsibility going forward on.
Is this an unusual request in terms of trying to get state money for this? I mean, is there an avenue that you think you can get this, or is this something that is out of the norm? I mean, I don't know what the process looks like for a project like that.
It's absolutely out of the norm. We figure there's hundreds of abandoned cemeteries across our state, from old farming towns that aren't there anymore to logging camps up north here. But the key is they don't have 20-foot waves hitting them year round. So extremely unique situation. You know, we're not looking at going at bonding dollars per se, because there's just so many important projects on that. But we feel we should be able to advocate for environmental dollars on this side of thing. We just put an ask in for LCC-NR, the Ledge Citizen Committee on Natural Resources. We feel like that might be a really good route to go on. To ask for this $2.5 million. And, we have two local electeds that serve on that board, Representative Scraba out of the Yulee region and Senator McEwen in the Duluth area. So Republican Democrat side.
If you don't find this funding, if it doesn't work at the state and the county can't afford it, what do you do?
I feel like I've been in this as a county commissioner now in my 13th year, that this is just so special. It's not a Democrat-Republican issue. It's about doing what's right. And this is where I think local government and the state can really do a good job. It's a good news story. So I'm very hopeful on this. I'd be very surprised if we don't get some traction. We just had our Duluth St. Louis County Days down at the Capitol last week, and like I said, I talked to folks on both sides of the aisle, and they were appreciative of what we're trying to accomplish here.
Well, it seems like in many ways a no-brainer. As you said, you have Lake Superior. It's not going to stop what it's doing. This problem is not going to fix itself, and it's something too that you want to be respectful of those that are buried in that cemetery, so that there's no more destruction to their final resting place.
It is. I mean, walking through this, like any cemetery, it tells a story, and you have children that passed away during the Spanish flu in 1910. You have veterans that are buried there. This is very much a working class cemetery that built East Duluth initially. So absolutely, I want to protect those that are buried there and their families. So we need to move forward on this. And like you say, Lake Superior isn't going to quit on us. We're up against them. The lake will always win. So let's hop on it and take care of this issue while we can.
All right. Well, we'll be watching to see how that progresses, to see if you get that fix that's so desperately needed. St. Louis County Commissioner Patrick Boyle, thank you for filling us in on this. And again, it's a story I've never heard of before, and I've been doing this a long time. It's a very unique situation that you have to deal with, and best of luck with it.
Thank you, and thanks for letting me tell my story.
All right. Thanks so much. Welcome back to All Day Live, Friday afternoon. Rob Olson sitting in for Amy today. We've been watching some committee hearings at the state capitol today. Not as many going on a Friday. There's one that is still going on. We're keeping an eye on for a couple of interesting topics, but it's taken a long time to get there. A couple of other interesting things, though, happening this morning that we wanted to bring you. Senator John Hoffman introducing a bill to the Senate State and Local Government Committee that would designate a memorial for the late Melissa Hortman at the State Office building.
Senate File 4662 appropriates money for a memorial to Melissa Hortman at the site of the State Office building. As you know, Melissa was first elected to the State House in 2004 and served with distinction, gaining the respect of her colleagues on both sides of the aisle to her approach to legislating. Served as the minority leader and then the assistant majority leader before being elected Speaker of the House. She's been called as the most consequential speaker in Minnesota's history, an honor that reflects her incredible legislative work, but also reflects her approach to people. Mr. Chair, she built a relationship with everybody, no matter where they were from or which party they belonged to. And at a time when too many people let politics and partisanship get in the way, she focused on relationships and connections. And so her legislative legacy isn't unmatched. We should also honor and strive to embrace her approach to relationship building, respect, and her commitment to people. Renaming the State Office building would help all of us. Remember it above else, but also I ask for your support on this whole bill, Mr. Chair and members. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Hoffman. Any members' questions or comments to the bill? Again, thank you, Senator Hoffman, for presenting and bringing this forward. Any final words for the committee?
No, Mr. Chair, and I enjoyed doing town halls with her. She made it very clear the position of her and against the Senate, and I could never get any support from Zach Stevenson in those town halls, but I miss her and I love her, so thank you very much, Mr. Chair.
Yeah, emotional for him, of course. John Hoffman also injured on that same morning back in June when Melissa Hortman and her husband were killed. So again, taking a few minutes today to honor her in another way. Also at the Capitol today in that same committee, State and Government Committee, looking at a bill that, you know, on the surface you might think, well, this is a silly thing. This is, how are they spending time on this? We should note it took less than 5 minutes of the committee's time today, and we'll go then into an omnibus bill. It's a bill that would name the toboggan is the official state sled of Minnesota. Right now, Minnesota doesn't have an official state sled, so if this passes, you know, then it becomes the official state sled. But when you listen to this, you kind of hear the background on how this comes to come before a committee. Let's take a listen.
This bill is a really fun bill, and I not just because the subject area is pretty cool, right? To name the toboggan as the official state sled of Minnesota. But the reason why I was motivated to do this was because of the people who stepped forward to ask me to do this. I think it's really important when we give young people the experience of what it's like to pass a bill. They have to write it, they have to lobby for it, they have to get an author to sign onto it, they watch it get drafted and then go through the committee process. And in a time where a lot of people look at politics and government as something that maybe seems too far reach or too impossible or a place that feels confusing and divisive, I'm hopeful, and it gives me a lot of hope for the future, that there are young people who are still interested in it and see it as a vehicle of something that can help people. And if this is the way that they get involved, I think it's wonderful. So if you want to look at your packet, and I really would encourage you to, because there is a very sweet letter in there from somebody who's providing written testimony. But here's just some of the quotes. I think from the St. Paul Toboggan Club, I think tobogganing is special because everyone can do it together. Even if you are little or old, it makes winter fun instead of just cold. And by passing this, we would be honoring the toboggan's history and celebrating Minnesota's outdoor winter culture. By investing in youth-led initiatives, this bill creates a more active and connected community. There's more that I'm sure we'll hear from our testifiers on the toboggan history and the significance of this in Minnesota. But as somebody who married into a Swedish name, Gustafsson, I think this is also a really fun way to kind of celebrate winter and you know, all of the fun that you can have in a Minnesota winter. So thank you.
All right, thank you to the testifier. Please state your full name for the record, and you may begin.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and members of the committee. My name is Lillian Tinty, and I am a high school student from St. Paul. And today I speak on behalf of the St. Paul Toboggan Club and the Minnesota Toboggan Project in strong support of this bill to designate the toboggan as the official sled of Minnesota. For thousands of years, long before Minnesota became a state, indigenous peoples, including the Ojibwe and Dakota, used toboggans as an essential tool for survival. These sleds carried families, supplies, and food across deep winter landscapes. Built to glide directly over snow without runners, the toboggan is uniquely suited for northern environments like ours. As the fur trade developed, one of the earliest and most influential forces in Minnesota's history, toboggans became even more important. Indigenous trappers and traders used them to transport furs and goods across vast distances in winter, helping build the economic foundation of our state. Without the toboggan, that movement would not have been possible. And this history is not distant, it is local. Right here at our state capitol, there were once toboggan runs. Families gathered on these grounds, embracing winter not as something to endure, but as something to celebrate. And that spirit is still alive today. I want to share a quick perspective from a younger generation of tobogganers. Emmett Colby, age 9, says, "I like history and getting to use toboggans and learn about the past. Sledding with friends and meeting new people is fun." Organizations like the St. Paul Toboggan Club and the Minnesota Toboggan Project are working to preserve and revive this tradition. We are not creating something new. We are protecting something that is so deeply Minnesotan. And no sled represents that better than the toboggan. Designating the toboggan as the official state sled is more than symbolic. It's a recognition of the people, traditions, and resilience that shaped Minnesota. So let's make it official. Thank you for your time and consideration.
Thank you for your any questions or comments to the bill. Senator Gustafson, any final words for us?
No, Mr. Chair, again, I think that this is a really good example of how we can blend different traditions and to you know, celebrating Minnesota winters and winter fun. And I really, really appreciate it. And I, again, highly recommend that you all read this letter in your packet. It's very cute. And thank you.
There you go. It kind of reminds me of the old, what Saturday morning, how a bill becomes a law. And in many cases you see where students are learning how this process works, and through that they kind of propose something is a way of learning how it happens, and then it actually happens. So that was laid over for consideration, which means it would be then placed in a larger bill that would be voted on at the end of the legislative session, presumably towards the end of the session anyway. All right, we are going to take a quick break, and on the other side of this, we're heading back to Sacramento to check in with Ahmad Hicks, who's covering the Gophers in the Sweet 16 tonight. Look at that. That's a live picture from Sacramento. That game, of course, this evening. If they win, they play again on Sunday in the Elite Eight. We'll be right back. Welcome back to All Day Live, Friday afternoon, a few hours away now from tip-off for the Gopher women basketball team in the Sweet 16, taking on a conference foe, top-seeded UCLA, the winner advancing to the regional final. Of course, one step closer to the Final Four. Fox 9's Ahmad Hicks is live in Sacramento. Now out of that luxury VIP penthouse suite that we put him in outside the arena. And first of all, how's the weather out there?
It's beautiful right now, Rob. Let me pull up the temperature here for you right now. So it is 68 and cloudy, but I think my weather app is a little wrong because it's sunny right now. It's beautiful nonetheless, though. A great day to play some basketball here in Sacramento.
Sounds good. So as we talked about this last hour too, and we'll revisit this, that just because UCLA had one loss in the season and just because they beat the Gophers by 18 points in January, doesn't necessarily mean that is what is in store for them tonight.
No, I mean, just because you beat a team one time in the regular season doesn't automatically guarantee you a victory the second time in the postseason. And any coach in any sport will tell you it's easy to beat a team once. It's terribly difficult to do it twice in the same season. So the Bruins will certainly have their work cut out for them this afternoon when they take on Minnesota and Tori McKinney, who they didn't get a chance to see in that previous matchup in January at Williams Arena. So right now, the Bruins are favored to win by 15+ points, but Vegas is wrong sometimes. We know that, Rob.
We do know that, yeah. And, you know, and again, in March Madness, anything can happen. Upsets happen all the time. This could be another one of them. And you were talking about, you were talking about the numbers here. From that matchup back in mid-January. And, you know, with the key player out who's back in and the points that person, I forget the name, I'm sorry, but you're just mentioning it. Tell us again here how this math could be different in this matchup tonight.
Okay, so I'm not the best mathlete in the world. Simone will be able to tell you that, and my mom, but I'll do my best here. So the Gophers in their first matchup with UCLA lost by 18 points. They were without Tori McKinney, and she is the Gophers' leading scorer this year at 15 points a game. So now let's do the math. You put Tori McKinney in that game, okay, let's say they lose by 3 points. Well, the Gophers were outscored in that first quarter by, I believe, 8 points. They were outscored the rest of the game by 10 points in the next 3 quarters. So that means that if you insert Tori McKinney, you slow down Kiki Rice, who shot 8 of 9 versus the Gophers, 88% and 25 points. If you manage to slow her down, well, look, now you have a chance. You insert Tori McKinney's 15 points. Now it's just a 3-point swing right there. So I think it's all about sustaining runs and not allowing the Bruins to get out there and, you know, establish their identity early on. Lauren Betts, I know everyone has talked about her, future lottery pick in the WNBA upcoming draft, but she only had 17 points in the first matchup. So Sophie Hart, Finau Tonga, they're going to have their work cut out for them, but it's certainly doable, Rob.
Yeah, and you know, we talk a lot in sports about its teams peaking at the right time, which is kind of what it seems to be happening with the Gophers here. What has, in your view, been working so well for them?
Just their joy. I remember probably in the middle of the season, Rob, they went through a rough stretch in January where they lost a couple of road games and they went through a bit of a losing streak. And the girls, the ladies told me at that time, they said, it's okay to go through this rut right now because what we want to be doing is playing our best basketball towards the end of the regular season and heading into March. And if we all remember, they won 10 out of their last 11 games. And whenever you look at this team, you would think they're just like some stone-faced, mean ladies that just play basketball and they're locked in on game day. Complete opposite. Laughing, giggling, hugging one another, just playing around as if they're young kids. And they say that joy is what's helped them advance this far in the NCAA tournament.
All right. Well, it should be a fun evening. What's in store for you the rest of the day here? I mean, besides going to the game, I mean, what does that look like? You know, give people a peek behind the curtain for the life of Ahmad Hicks covering something like this. What does this look like?
We're busy, Rob. On game days, we are absolutely busy. So we wrap up with this hit, then we're going to go back to the hotel. I'm going to get on my game day suit, so I'm going to get ready, then head over to the team hotel, get their send-off, interview a couple of people over there. Then we'll do our live shot from there, then hustle back over to this location for 5 and 6 o'clock live shots, watch the game. Then, of course, we'll have a live report hopefully at 9 and 10. So we'll be busy, and then I'll be doing social media stuff the rest of the night, hopefully after a win, Rob.
Hopefully after a win, and then extend your hotel stay for that Elite Eight game on Sunday.
We're here through Monday already. The plane's booked until Monday. The hotel stay booked until Monday. We've learned from our past experiences. We are ready for the long haul, Rob.
All right, and don't forget to get some meals in the midst of all that. It sounds like
absolutely
you're booked up. Ahmad, thanks so much. We'll look for you later on today. Enjoy your weekend. All right, there you go. Ahmad Hicks enjoying the warmer weather in Sacramento. And I have a good feeling about this game for the Gophers.
I like how Ahmad broke that down and said if the Gophers had this and if that happened, then I was like, you know what, I'm buying that.
I am too.
Yeah.
I am too. And, you know, especially, again, when we talk about March Madness, and anything can happen. And I would say watching the Nebraska-Iowa Hawkeye game last night, or the end of it, I was going back and forth between the Wild and them, shows you. I mean, a lot of people, you said Vegas didn't have them getting out of the first game.
Yeah, I mean, they were 9 seed. I think Clemson was a slight favorite in that game. For what it's worth, I picked Clemson in my bracket, but that should tell you right there. And then certainly against Florida, you would not have thought Iowa would have had a chance. In nothing would show that they would have had a chance in that game, but they did. They hung in there and they hit big shots at the end, and they're 1 win away from the Final Four. Rob,
isn't that great?
And the Gophers are 2 wins away from the Final Four.
Yeah,
so
that makes it exciting. I mean, and, you know, depending on how you feel about the Hawkeyes, you know, if you're a Gopher fan, hey, come on, the men's Gophers team not in this, so we can root for the neighbor to the south.
I root for the Big Ten, right?
Yep.
I know the Big Ten is cross-country now, so it's not necessarily a Midwest thing, but...
Well, the Big Ten is how the big what now? What number are we up to?
I believe we have 18 teams, 16 or 18. But we all the way from Los Angeles to Rutgers.
Yeah,
so
it's kind of silly. Right now, I'm also watching right here. I don't know if you
know you are. Yeah, it's probably breaking every rule in the. What are we watching there?
Well, that's the NCAA hockey tournament in which Minnesota State Mankato.
Yep.
Is playing Western Michigan.
Is this the... I should follow college hockey closer. I don't.
I really haven't been paying...
Where are we in that tournament?
I don't even know. I just know that I got a text. So young Finn Olsen is a senior at Minnesota State Mankato, and he just texted me to remind me of this going on. I'm like, oh, yeah, I got to check that out. So go Mavs. It's the Minnesota representation in the NCAA.
I love it.
Let's see, and there was one other thing we wanted to talk about. Well, the Twins losing yesterday by 1 run, 2-1.
They get another shot at it tomorrow, back in Baltimore. Baltimore tomorrow, and then Sunday.
And then they go to Detroit, I believe,
Kansas City.
Come home. Oh, it's Kansas City.
I believe so. Yep, Kansas City, and then back home against Tampa for the opener.
Which is will be happening exactly 1 week from right now.
Yes, exactly.
Which will be very exciting for that.
And where can you watch that game, Rob Olsen?
On Fox 9.
You bet you can.
I'll be out there helping out with the 9 a.m. show. Good day.
That's what you think. We might need you to host. You never know.
You never know. Well, I'll be out there, maybe back here, maybe back out there. I don't know, but looking forward to that. All right. Well, that brings us to the end here. Appreciate you guys joining us for another day of All Day Live on this Friday. Enjoy your weekend.